Hey, we made it to Friday. Was there any doubt? I had a lot of my friends telling me that it was a fast week, man. I don't know what planet they were on, but we know where we are now. We're on planet Earth. How you guys doing, huh? Mr. H here with you to wrap up the week. Was it good? Was it bad? Well, you made it to the end, and it's the weekend, so we'll plot a better one for next week, or just keep going if you had a great week. Either one works for me, huh? Hey, we're talking about nuclear arms race today, right? The proliferation of nuclear weapons. And who had them first? USA, 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 right, 1945. Actually, they started working on it in 1942 down there with the Manhattan Project. They called it the Manhattan Project because they started the initial research at Columbia University. As that place changed? Anyway, and then, of course, here we are, someone standing next to the nuclear core with absolutely no idea what that thing is. And there we are. We have the atomic bomb Trinity test site in all around New Mexico. So, hey, USA got it first. Also, first country to use one. Yeah, atomic bombing of Japan. There's Hiroshima. They also have one at Nagasaki. I wasn't going to picture of that one. It's just too depressing. There you are, 70,000 people getting incinerated, possibly 100,000, and the after effects are much worse. Some people say we shouldn't have used it. The invasion of Japan itself might have cost easily 1 million lives, American lives, who knows how many Japanese. Plus, before we condemn people in 1945 for using an atomic bomb, remember, no one really knew what this thing was exactly, didn't know what it could do. I mean, the test in New Mexico wasn't exactly televised, so yeah, it's just one of those things. Nobody really knew what would happen. They told Enola Gay, the B-29, flying it, and Tebbets, the guy who put it together, never put one together before in his life. It hadn't existed yet. They told him drop the bomb and run. He did it, and good thing he ran. They still got caught by the shock wave on the way out, but like I said, no one was really sure what an atomic bomb was. And remember, this is the second one, so imagine how they've I hesitate using the word improve, but how they have evolved since then. Tsusumu Yamaguchi. Yep, this gentleman survived not one but two atomic bombs. Yeah, he was in Hiroshima on August the 6th, 1945. He dragged himself into a shelter, suffering a lot of burns and some radiation sickness. Then he went to Nagasaki for his other job, showed up on time, and got caught by the second bomb. This is one dedicated employee. On the other hand, maybe you shouldn't have to be that dedicated. So if you're ever a couple minutes late, just remind the boss of this story. They might show some mercy. Just show up on time, do your job, get paid, move on, right? Now, the Soviet Union was already, after an atomic bomb as well. Everybody, it was no big secret. The Americans had when the Soviet Union would. And about 4 seconds before, after the end of the Second World War, the arms race is starting. It actually started earlier than that. The NKVD, forerunner of the KGB and the secret police and all that, they already had spies over here in 1943. Yeah, they're spying on their allies. But eventually, the Soviet Union comes up with an atomic bomb, and they had their test in 1949. Tried to keep it secret. Kind of hard to keep something like that a secret, even in 1949. They detonated a bomb in Kazakhstan, and we found out a couple weeks later. But yeah, they kept it quiet for a little while. Over here is kind of what a Soviet atomic bomb looks like. I saw this at the store the other day. I don't know who wants a model of this. What's RDS? Rusaya Delet Sama. Russia does it herself. That was their third test bomb, by the way, hence the three. So now we have two people in the nuclear club, the United States and the Soviet Union. Who do you think would be number three? Yeah, that's a no-brainer. It's going to be the British. Operation Hurricane. They took all the stuff the U.S. handed them from the Manhattan Project. They started putting it together. Where do you think they tested this thing? They didn't test it out in the desert, so we're not in New Mexico, and they certainly tested this thing in Great Britain. They went to Australia, tested it over there. Australia wasn't too happy about it, but, Britain decided they're doing it anyway, so now Britain becomes member number 3. That's right, get that member card ready. If the British get it, the French want it, right? So now here comes France. 1960, they test their own nuclear weapons. Tested some in the Pacific, also in Algeria during that war when that was going on. It's kind of a strange choice of a testing ground. I guess they're trying to scare the rebels at the time. That should do it. Fun fact: the French nuclear weapons were "quote unquote" the most dirtiest of all. Yeah, a lot of Pacific Islanders suffering radiation burns and damage and such like this, and lots of cancers. They had to do some reparations later on, but that doesn't really help you. And a check in the mail isn't going to help. But I guess they felt they had to do something. It just sounds like it wasn't thought out very well. Hey, China hops in 1964. That's right, we got ourselves a Chinese nuclear weapon now. So obviously they had stuff from the Russians, and they're already starting to, they got along very badly with the Russians at this point, but they still had the knowledge, know-how, and figured it out. Tested a place out there called Lop Nor, way out there, the west part of China. Why would they test it there? Same reason the Russians tested it in Kazakhstan, the United States in New Mexico, Great Britain and Australia, France and both Algeria, and in the Pacific. Yeah, in case something goes horribly wrong, you don't blow one of your own cities away. And to this day, it's still their nuclear testing ground, and tons of ICBMs are in that area. I figured they irradiated the whole place. Might as well start using it for nukes, right? In 1974, we got India, Smiling Buddha. They called it the Atoms for Peace program. Doesn't look that peaceful to me, but nonetheless, they tested this thing out in 1974, and India did it themselves. They no help from anybody. They figured it out, detonated the bomb, and in a remote part of India. And there's rumors there were a couple of villages got hit by this thing. It's always been kind of hush hush, but they say it could be used for peaceful applications. You see a big hole in the ground over there, right over here? Yeah, see it? They say maybe they could use it to blast holes through mountains, and so they could build railroads or canals or something. Yeah, not with a hole that big. Got to fill it up again, pal. And by the way, that place is going to be irradiated for like 25, 30 years, so I don't think that's going to really work out. We know what it's really for, right? Yeah, just in case China or Pakistan start getting some ideas about attacking India again. Israel. Yeah, Israel is probably a nuclear power. They never actually will tell you. Sometime in the 70s, they created nuclear weapons. Don't know if they actually tested it or not. We don't even know if they actually have them. They actually have them in a place called Dimona. They keep the detonator separate from the weapon so they can always tell people that they don't have nuclear weapons. That's what they always say. Israel is 60 seconds away from a nuclear weapon. It's, put the detonator in and off you go with it. So they have never confirmed or denied they have it. They simply smile and nod if you ask them to have nuclear weapons. It kind of reminded me of, The Departed, that scene with Sergeant Dingham over there. Do you have somebody in Costello's group? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe go, we know the rest of it. So that's kind of Israel's nuclear policy. Maybe they got them, maybe they don't. I don't know. Won't anybody near Dimona, you figure it out. Hey, South Africa becomes a nuclear power in the late 70s, too. Isn't that a shock? Yeah, I bet you didn't know that. South Africa actually created about 6 nuclear weapons. And they said it was more about deterrence to keep the United States from ever intervening in South Africa, though I'm not aware of any U.S. attempts to actually do so, but I guess that's why they built them. Had 6 of them there for a while. When the apartheid government fell in 1994, South Africa became the only country in history to voluntarily get rid of their own nukes. Yep, they just dismantled everything, and that was that. Of course, some people point out Belarus, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan when the Soviet Union collapsed, but no, that was all part of the reduction of the Soviet nuclear arsenal anyway, so that doesn't count. But South Africa, definitely the first to do so, even if the reasoning was a little off. They know South Africa had it because they set up a testing ground out in the Kalahari Desert, and even satellites in 1978 could spot it and say it looks a lot like the Manhattan Project. And a lot of countries told South Africa, don't test it. Not a good idea. We really harm relations. Not that South Africa had good relations with anybody anyway, but they decided to back off and just told everybody, we got some nukes. Turns out South Africa wasn't alone. You had some collaboration there from the Israelis, who knew a thing or two about nuclear weapons. A library in Dimona, I would imagine. I don't know. And guess who else was involved in this? Yeah, Taiwan. Isn't that interesting? So, all the given attention China and Taiwan. Hey, China, you might want to pay a little extra attention as part of the podcast here. So maybe Taiwan's got something hidden somewhere in those mountains. If they don't, they've got the components, just like Israel. It's around somewhere, just in case they ever need it. 60 seconds away from a nuclear weapon. So if India gets something, it's got to be China and Pakistan. China's already got it. Here comes Pakistan. Pakistan announced they had the technology to build a nuclear weapon in 1987. They refrained from testing it until 1998. So, it depends what year you want to put them in the nuclear club. They're in it now. And they have decided to, make nuclear missiles because they can move around, don't know where they are until they launch them. And by the time they launch them, you've forgotten all about where that nuclear launcher was driving off to now. Got a lot much worse things happening. And you better believe it, they're definitely pointed at India. Hey, here's a guy nobody wants to see under any circumstances, much less the nuclear club. That's right, North Korea. They have nuclear weapons as of 2006. They like to test their missiles. They always fling them over Japan, just to annoy the Japanese. Suppose they can reach the U.S. West Coast. They claim they can reach all the way to D.C. It's certainly possible. Rumor has it they're working on their only nuclear submarine, which would make it even worse because you park off the coast and launch. But, it's India and Pakistan having nukes are bad enough because these are two countries who don't really fit into the whole East-West paradigm. North Korea is definitely a wild card, man. It's not East, it's not West, North, or South. That thing does whatever it wants, North Korea. So that makes them exceptionally dangerous. I don't think he's dumb enough to want to get into a nuclear exchange with anybody because he might get a couple shots in, but there won't be a North Korea when this thing's over. So it must be prestige sake or keep people from attacking North Korea. All right, let's move on to woolly mammoth. Yeah, I know it's not a dinosaur, but I really like the woolly mammoth. It's always been one of my favorite animals. It's one that human beings were around to see and probably played a role in its extinction. But nonetheless, woolly mammoths are really cool. Some people claim to see one every now and again. I like to think they're still out there, but I don't know, probably not. If you do see one, don't tell anybody. Let everybody leave them alone. The woolly mammoth, about the size of an African elephant, a little bit bigger. Differences, well, you can tell by the hair, right? And the ears are pretty big to more heat. And of course, the tusks. I always think if you're running up at this thing with a spear head on, it sees you and swings those tusks, you get hit by it, man, it's going to hurt. Oh, it's good football practice, but those tusks are about 35 pounds each, and they're very solid. You get hit with that thing when it swings its head, man, you're going to feel it, and you're going to go flying, and you're going to land, and you're not going to like it. So be nice to the woolly mammoth. We know a lot about them because they only became extinct 4,000 years ago. Yep, you heard that right. More about that later. But the fossils and remains we find are fairly well preserved. We found lots of them frozen in the permafrost. We find the tusks all over the place, the molars as well. So we know a lot about the diet. We know what they look like. Pretty good idea what they look like, even the color of the fur. And yes, there's some drawings and etchings or even cave paintings of these things in all sorts of places, Europe, Northern Asia, and even North America. So we know a lot about the woolly mammoth. So I have no idea how they got the initial paleo art on this thing so wrong. Okay, what is that supposed to be, man? It could be a pig, might be a warthog, a javelina maybe. And why are the tusks going in opposite directions? What purpose would that serve, man? How did you not realize this was an elephant? I don't know, man. Of course, this comes out of Russia, so who knows what's going on over there, right? It's very cold, a lot of drinking, and you end up with something like this. Now, here's something that didn't happen. There's a movie called 10,000 BC, and they had, woolly mammoths hauling huge granite and limestone blocks to help construct the pyramids. Now, that didn't happen, or at least not outside of Siberia. We found some interesting archaeology stuff in Siberia lately, but if anyone's building a pyramid with mammoths, it's not the ancient Egyptians. All right, just thought I'd clear that up right now. Pretty cool movie, even if it's historically inaccurate. So why did the woolly mammoth disappear? Yeah, there's always the thing about the climate changing. The world warmed up, the habitat shrank, all of which are probably true. But we also know that Homo sapiens hunted woolly mammoths. And if you ever notice, every time the humans show up, the number of species go down. It's not a recent phenomenon. Check out the Amazon if you get a chance. Check out Africa, even Europe. I mean, every time the Homo sapiens show up, the other animals start disappearing. So just goes to show this would be such an awesome planet if it wasn't for all the human beings. Said it before. I said it again. I stand by my statement. Now, mammoth extinction. End of the Ice Age, 10,000 BC. Turns out we find remains all the way until approximately 2000 BC. So remember that talk about mammoths not building the pyramids? They may have, if you want to go with the conventional idea that the pyramids are built around 2500 BC, that means there were mammoths around at that time, just not in Egypt, obviously. And we find the most recent mammoth remains to be on Wrangel Island off the coast of Siberia to about 2000 BC. Yeah, isn't that interesting? So mammoths were around fairly recently. Other people speculate they may still be around here and there, but definitely around the 2000 BC. So well into the advent of human civilization, the Holocene, mammoths were around. And then one day they weren't. Now, don't fear. If you like mammoths like I do, there is this idea here floated around every couple of years, something called a Pleistocene Park. All right, they think they can recreate the environment, and since mammoth remains often are, by paleontological standards, very fresh, they could actually replicate the DNA, doing the Jurassic Park thing and create something called Pleistocene Park. Now, I would go. I mean, honestly, I don't know how much it would be, but I'd find some way to get there. Is this a good idea, though? Should you bring back extinct animals? There are people say there's literally a series of movies telling us this is a bad idea. It is a plant eater. That might be the loophole I'm looking for, but it might not be such a great idea. Nonetheless, I'm still going. If they ever have it, I'm going. I'm going to Siberia, man. I'm going to go see a woolly mammoth, just once they get around to actually replicating one of them. I hope they're not holding a grudge. All right, the UFL. Let's talk about what's going on there. Going into week 7 over here, and definitely starting to see separation in the standings. Only 8 teams, so got a good idea of who's going to be in the playoffs. Back at week 6, we saw the undefeated and still undefeated two-time defending champion, USFL champions, Birmingham Stallions just beat up on Memphis 39-21. The St. Louis Battlehawks had the Houston Roughnecks come into town 22-8. St. Louis wins again, undefeated at home. This was a good one here between Michigan and Arlington. Michigan is trying to make the playoffs. Arlington is just trying to win a game. They thought they had that game won, but Michigan, with their awesome kicker, Jake Bates, booms a long one in and wins it at the end, 28-27. Michigan still has a chance at the playoffs. Arlington, start updating the resume, man. Then I saw San Antonio playing D.C. That was a good game. The important thing is we saw the beer snake in the back end zone. And D.C. wins that one 18-12, keep their playoff hopes alive. So here's the standings. Birmingham has a playoff berth. They're going to the playoffs. It's not over yet. They haven't clinched a division, but they're definitely going to be in the playoffs. There's Michigan, 2 games back at 4-2. Looks like they're going to be second. Of course, you never know. Still got 4 games to go, but looking good. Memphis and Houston, both at 1-5. I don't know, man. Crazier things that happen, but I don't know if it's that crazy, man. Over in the XFL conference, St. Louis 5-1, but they don't have a huge lead because San Antonio is right behind them at 4-2. DC is at 3-3, but it's only 2 games back and 4 games to go. A lot of things can happen. Here's Arlington at 0-6. A lot of people pointing out, hey, Arlington won the championship last year at 4-6. Well, they're 0-6 right now. They haven't won a game since that championship. So, yeah, not looking too good for Arlington. A lot of people there start logging on to Indeed. Here are the games coming up here this week. We got Memphis going to Arlington. Memphis not looking too good. Arlington even worse at 0-6. If there's a chance for Arlington to pull down win number 1, this is it. St. Louis versus Birmingham down in Alabama. This could be a preview of the championship game. A lot of people are saying it might be. It's going to be very interesting. Definitely going to tune in to watch this one. On Sunday, Michigan and D.C. This looks like another good one. 2 teams fighting for the playoffs. Michigan at 4-2, DC at 3-3. This is an important game for both of these teams. I can see this turning into a fight all the way to the end. And yes, we're looking for the beer snake. Then San Antonio playing against Houston. The battle for Texas over here. San Antonio needs to be careful. It could be a trap. Play a 1-5 team at home. Yeah, sometimes they get desperate. You guys have yourself a fantastic weekend. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Watch a few UFL games. If you want to argue with me about anything here or anything at all, hey, say hi in the comments. Maybe I'll answer, or maybe I won't. Depends what I got going on that day. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time. Das vidanya.